I was horrified because now personal information was at stake.
So you've been in Texas for 50 years. What do you like most about Texas?
Well, I was sent here so that I didn't have a choice, but I like the fact that we don't have bad snow because I'm from the Northeast, and it's kind of a smallish community compared to Philadelphia, which is where I'm from, so those are two things I like.
Did you ever think you would call Texas home?
Never, never. We came with the Air Force from Germany to Texas, and I had more culture shock coming to Texas than I had going to Germany.
Wow.
Because it was so different.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about living here and how you got involved with TAD.
Okay. 2 years ago, or actually 3 years ago, I bought a home in Como area for my son. And when the tax appraisal bill came, they had doubled the value of the house from what it would have been the previous year. They were basing it on the price. This was 2021, and of course there was an increase in housing values, but to double it, that seemed a little extreme. And so I wanted to file a protest, and I contacted one of these services that charge you to prepare the protest, but I had to make the protest myself. They didn't do it for me. And I went in to explain to them the damages that the inspection of the house before I bought it had disclosed, with pictures and explanations. And I said that it did not double in value. When I purchased it, it was still in a not perfect condition. And they never even looked at the protest. They hadn't received it, and they hadn't looked at it. They hadn't looked at the pictures. They weren't willing to find the pictures and review them at this interview. There were 3 people on the panel, plus the man from the TAD that was feeding them all the information. And they didn't want to hear anything I had to say. They were rude. They were condescending. They acted like I was an idiot. And all they wanted to hear was what the appraisal guy's recommendation was. And they just took it without any consideration. And I was really annoyed. I thought that was no way to treat somebody who was coming to them with a valid protest when they had doubled my tax appraisal. So I had to pay the tax. It wasn't reduced at all. And so the next year, they raised it again. Plus, they raised the appraisal on my condo where I live. They added, it went from 260 to 360. And that's, a very high percent. And so by that time, I had met Chandler Crouch. And so I contacted him and asked him if he would represent me in those 2 cases. And he did, and got them reduced, and I didn't have to go down there and sit through one of those hearings where I was so badly treated. But by that time, he had gotten into the problems that he'd had with TAD, and so I went to bat for him by attending TAD meetings and speaking to people that I knew could maybe help. And I just became a big fan of Chandler Crouch, so I started being watchful of what TAD was doing.
Hearing that they got hacked and hackers demanding $700,000 a second hack, when you heard that, how did that hit you?
Well, I was a surprise that it happened again. I wasn't so surprised that it happened the first time because it had happened when I was trying to fight the protest last year. The website shut down. It wasn't a hack, but the website, I wasn't able to keep track of what was going on with TAD through their website. Yeah, I was horrified because now personal information was at stake. So yeah, I was concerned enough to go to that meeting to find out what was going on. And I was discouraged to hear that we didn't find out anything we didn't already know through the newspapers. They just said, oh, well, we're going to look into it. They didn't want to hear from the public. They had to let us speak, but they told the first fellow that got up there to speak that he was out of line, that he wasn't speaking on the subject, and it took the attorney and one of the board members to point out to him that he could speak on anything he wanted to speak on. And so they, allowed him to speak, but they already were backing away from the public even before they went into closed session.
So right now, they want the public to believe they've turned over a new leaf. They're operating in the best interest of people like you. With this new hack, do you have any confidence right now in
Not really. They're saying, it was all caused by the previous regime. And I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt until I saw that they're still up to their non-transparency by, limiting public speech and not having anything to tell us. When the attorney came out after the first part of the closed meeting, she came out supposedly to tell us what was going on, and she didn't tell us anything new. She didn't tell us that it was $700,000 and an additional $135,000 to purchase software to correct the problem in the future. It wasn't going to correct it in the past. She didn't tell us that. Apparently, the media had already gotten that information because when I got home from the meeting, I had an alert on my phone that said that the ransom was for $700,000 and mentioned the 135. So I don't yet see the steps in the right direction. I think having 3 new board members elected by the county residents, that's a step in the right direction, but that's not one that TAD took. That the state took that one.
Yeah. Right now, as far as your personal information, are you at ease, a little uncomfortable? How are you feeling about these hackers threatening?
Well, I don't know. I've been victims of scams because people are so easily able to get into my personal information and call me and say my daughter's in jail and all that kind of stuff. So I know that you've got to have extra protection and they should have way back 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, when they thought they had been scammed, they had been hacked, and it was just something that went down apparently on their website. They should have installed all the security that they're now planning to install. That should have been done right then.
Yeah. How are you feeling about this upcoming appraisal protest season? Are you anxious about April and getting your...
Yes. I'm afraid they'll do the same thing again about increasing the appraisals, but I have my friend Chandler Crouch will take care of that, I hope. But yeah, no, I'm not. I think they're going to get their appraisal act together, hopefully. I do hope, and I spoke to one of the candidates that's running for the board and mentioned that they treat the people that come for the protest so badly, and that's so inexcusable. The staff in the front were fine. When I went in and signed up to go to my hearing, they were very polite. I have no problems with them, with the exception of the fellow that is the liaison with the board, and he was rude in the past, and he's still rude. But the those people that sit on the panel and the staff person that sits in on those hearings just needs to listen to the people. And even if they don't like what they hear or believe what they hear, they shouldn't be so rude.
For people who didn't get a chance to make the meeting, what's your advice to them when it comes to the TAD board?
Well, I would hope that they would just keep their feet to the fire. And the best way to do that is go and show your face and sit there in the meeting. I know Chandler had hoped, and another group I belonged to had hoped we'd have a really good showing. We did have, I think, 5 or 6 of us that were there to support the new, to see what was going on. We hoped for a larger crowd, but that's fine. We did at least had that. Next time, we had no notice, or not a lot of notice. Next time, we'll probably have more people there.
Yeah. Is this about accountability for you, for someone who's supposed to be serving property owners in Tarrant County?
Absolutely. They're paid to do that. They definitely should be accountable. And they should be, the people on the board should be accountable to the residents of Tarrant County. However, they don't feel that way because they're appointed. They are accountable to whoever has appointed them, and that's a very different story. Now, when we have at least 3 people on the board who are accountable to the electorate, hopefully we'll see a difference, because the members of the board, with a couple of exceptions, are not feeling that they're accountable to the public. They're accountable to those who have appointed them.